minus 1.5. So here I found my turning point to be 1.5 and minus 1.5. So the calculate 12.5. 12.5. Okay, minus 12.5. So this is my turning point. It has been sorted out already. Then they say, can you also calculate what is the discriminant? And they use this symbol for discriminant. Sometimes we use big capital letter D. So discriminant, they say, is B squared minus 4AC. So this is the formula that you will use a lot. I will explain to you later why is it called discriminant. Okay, but we will plug in B squared minus 4AC. And then you calculate the value. What is it? Calculator. $100. Okay, so you get 100. Then next question they ask you, is your discriminant equals to 0? This symbol here asks you to make a decision. This symbol here is the process symbol. That means just follow the formula. All these are called the process symbol. Huh? The rectangle is the process symbol. Okay, and then the parallelogram is called your input or output symbol. Okay, so the shape matters. Some of you are going into computing, into coding next time. When you draw the flow chart, you cannot anyhow use the shape. The shape has a meaning. So the parallelogram is for input, output. The rectangle is for the processes. That means what formula you use. And then the diamond is for decision making. So this is for decision. So we know this is not equals to 0. So we go into the branch of no. Then they ask you, is it positive? Another decision to make. So is it positive? Is this positive? Yes. So we go under the yes branch. And then they tell you that you should have 2 distinct real roots. That means you should have 2 solutions that are different from each other. Or your graph will cut the x-axis. To be precise, is at 2 points. And then lastly, your turning point will happen at 1.5, negative 12.5. So your computer will give you this output. Oh, you have 2 distinct real roots. Your graph will cut the x-axis at 2 points. And then your turning point is this. So this is the program that will return you with this outcome. Okay, but why I'm showing this is because I'm showing you that there's 4 possible outcomes you can have. You look at the 4 boxes. This one, oh, the box they use not perfect, should be rectangle. A parallelogram, because it's an output. Okay, of course I don't want you to worry about the technicality here, but I'm just telling that it's important for you to know because we are moving towards computational thinking. Okay, then the whole thing ends. So there are 4 possible outcomes. You can have a situation where you have no real roots. Okay, but the graph is always positive or always negative. You can have a situation where you have 2 distinct real roots, or you can have a situation where you have 2 real and equal roots. So these are the 4 possible scenarios that eventually you will memorize. But I'm showing you this so that when you are trapped, you can go through this and help yourself solve the problem. So for the 1.2, right, you just put this beside you. Every time we solve, you can use this to help you solve the problem. Okay, I'm still copying. Okay, nothing much here. Everything is supposed to be there. And then, of course, they end. Once they give you the output, it's done. Can Yes. Is it snap break now? Okay, sorry. I accidentally E-math. Nothing scary. How to find x-intercept? How to find x-intercept? Sub y equals to 0. So you just sub y equals to 0. You can use any method you are comfortable with, be it factorization, completing the square, or quadratic formula. So you go and solve it, any method you like. What are the two factors you will get? What do I have here? Oh, not a nice number. So let's use quadratic formula then. So b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So this is the formula that will work for any quadratic that you see. It will not fail you. Oh, this is 100. Also is a nice answer, huh? So you will get square root 100. Right? Yeah, I think so. So you will end up having 6 plus 10, 16 divided by 4. So 4. Or what's the other one? Negative 1. Can you check? If it's wrong, tell me. It happens. Okay, so once you have gotten the x-intercept, you can find the turning point. Turning point, remember your sketching? You can find line of symmetry by finding the average of your two x-intercepts. So that will give you a 1.5. So your x-coordinate for your line of symmetry is 1.5. And then to find your turning point, you basically sub line of symmetry into the equation. But of course, if you want to work a bit harder, you go and complete the square. You can also get your line of symmetry directly. You can get your turning point directly. So it depends on how you want to get to your answer. Okay, so your turning point is 1.5, negative 12.5. So this is your turning point. So that's part 1 for you. And that's the 2 answers I want. Okay, this is the key part. They want you to explain why is it that you have 2 distinct real roots. Okay? So you can say, why my pencils suddenly so thick? Since at y equals to 0, there are 2 x-intercepts. Or you can say the graph cuts the x-axis at 2 points. So I leave it to you which one is your preference. Okay, therefore, there are 2 distinct real roots. Okay, which is true because this is a minimum curve and you just found that there's 2 x-intercept, one at 4, one at minus 1, and this happens when y is equals to 0. Right? So by telling them that we have found 2 x-intercepts, yes, cannot see. Okay, by telling them that you have 2 x-intercepts, you are telling them that it cuts the x-axis at 2 points. Therefore, there's 2 distinct real roots. Distinct means different values. Ayo, this one can hang somewhere. If not, I might be not unconscious in the class. Okay, this one, remember just now we had the flow chart and there's this word called the discriminant that discriminates whether you have 2 real roots, no real roots, or exactly 1 root. Okay, so if you want, since we haven't learned this, but we can always plug it in, you can go and calculate Okay, this will give you 100. And because it's positive, that's why you have two distinct real roots. This can also be used as an explanation. So you can say that since D is greater than 0, therefore it has two distinct real roots. This is an explanation that is very succinct and concise. Okay? So this is an alternative explanation that when you learn more, you can use. Okay? Done? Can Okay, now this is your quadratic formula. When we solve it, we get our two solutions, one solution or no solution. Why? Because this value here is the discriminant. The thing that will discriminate whether you have one solution, two solution or no solution. Because if this value is negative, what happens when you square root a negative number? Math error. Then you will have no real roots. No real roots because on the real number line, based on what you are learning at Set 4, you cannot find a solution. Okay, but when you go JC and Poly, they will tell you there's complex roots. Because negative, they introduce this letter I for complex roots. Okay, so now I tell you no solution. But when you go JC or Poly, they will say have solution. Okay, then you don't come back and say I lied to you. I'm telling you, when you go further, there's solution. But it's not real roots, it's complex roots. Okay, so at this moment, we learned that you cannot solve. That's why calculator give you math error. So if the value inside here, this D is negative, then there's no way you can solve the X value. There's no real roots. But if it's equals to 0, then what happened? Why is square root 0? 0. Then this thing will be gone. So how many answers do you have? How many answers will you have for X? Only one. Because it will just be this plus 0 or this minus 0. So sometimes they say one root only, one real root. Or some of them will say two real and repeated root. Okay, sometimes they don't like the word repeated, they change it to coincident root. That means they coincide with each other, or they will say equal root. So 3 different words for the same meaning. These 3 things, but they just mean you only got one solution. Yes, can. Okay, it just means you only have one solution, because there is that one value that you will get. I really will get hit by this thing. Okay, so this value minus b over 2a plus 0 minus 0, the two values are the same. That's why we call it two real and repeated root, but it's the same value. Okay, last one. When it's positive, what will happen? When you square root a positive number, it will be valid, right? So you will end up having two solutions that are distinct, because it will be minus b over 2a plus that value, or minus b over 2a minus that value. So you will get two real and distinct roots. So there are 3 scenarios here. Okay? But later part, you will learn that these two can be break up into further two parts. That's why you have 4 output in the computational thinking I give you. Depending on whether your graph is a minimum curve or it is a maximum curve. If you have no real root, you are a floating curve. You either float above the line or you float below the line. So, when this scenario happens, if you are minimum curve and you float above the line, you are a always positive graph. Okay? But if you are maximum curve, you float below, you are a always negative graph. So looks like a lot to remember, but it's just 4 cases. And I've given you the chart that tells you when each of it happens. Okay? So this whole 1.2 is about this. This is called nature of roots. Okay? Whether you have how many solutions and things like that. Okay? 4 scenario. So this one is broken up. This one is broken up into 2 scenarios, depending on whether you are maximum or minimum curve. Okay? Now it feels like there's a lot, but when we do the question, it's not. Can move. Yes? Oh, if it's a maximum, is there any possibility that you can be above the x-axis? Cannot, because let's say if I draw like that, but we all know that the tail always extends to infinity. So it will always cut at 2 points. So a maximum curve cannot float above the x-axis. It's not possible. Just like a minimum curve, even if you draw the line here, right? It can never float below because if you extend it, it will always cut. Okay, it's extending to infinity. Yes. What if a maximum? Then you have an always negative graph, no real roots, so it will never cut. Can Okay, we try example, then you will be better. Okay, this one are the scenarios, the different graphs. When your discriminant is equal to 0, then you only have one solution. So the number of x-intercept is just 1. You only cut the graph at 1 point, and we call it 2 real and equal roots, like what I wrote up there. Sometimes they like to describe like that. The curve intersect the x-axis at 1 point. Or sometimes they say touch the x-axis. These 3 things all mean the same thing. Just different ways of saying the same thing. Okay? So next one is this one. When discriminant is greater than 0, it means 2 real and distinct root. It means intersect the x-axis at 2 points. So you will see 2 intersection. Whether it's a minimum curve or a maximum curve, it will cut at 2 points. Okay, last scenario, discriminant less than 0. It does not intersect the axis at all. When it's a minimum graph, it's always a positive graph. When it's a maximum graph, it's a always negative graph. Okay, sometimes they say lies completely above x-axis. This one lies completely below the x-axis. So when you hear all these words or you see all these words, it means the same thing. No x-intercept. It's floating above or floating below. Doesn't cut at all. What I wrote here. Okay, this is for this scenario. This is for this scenario. So this is the most important page of this subtopic. Okay, if not, refer to this one. Okay, also can work. Okay, next part we go turbo mode. Turbo. You know turbo, right? Cannot see the back side of the car. Very fast. Ready? Done? Raj, are you ready to go turbo? Okay, good. Okay, this one. I want to use discriminant to see how many intercept. So calculate discriminant. B square minus 4AC. Then you go and calculate 0. So when it's 0, how many intercept you have? 1. Okay? This one, same thing. You got to go and expand it first. So algebra is very important in this chapter. Then you can get your ABC. Okay? So discriminant is B square. Remember when it's negative, put bracket 4AC. So 16 minus 20 is negative 4. When it's negative, how many intercept you have? Two? No real root, so don't have intersection. So the discriminant can straight away tell you have solution, no solution. This is math error if you go and calculate using quadratic formula. So don't even need to waste time. You check, you know no solution already. Can this one just press calculator only? Bit faster. Ready? Ayo, I lost one. Harini, are you okay? We have 7 minutes left and you're today only 2 periods, you're like that. Okay, next one. Yeah, but it's math. Got to wake up. Ready, ready? Tahan, tahan. Only 7 minutes. Can nobody copying. Okay, this one. Same thing. It says touches the x-axis means what? How many solution? Touch only. 1. So when touch means discriminant equals to 0. So the keyword is touches the axis. So it means discriminant equals to 0. So go and find discriminant. B square minus 4AC. Always check this must be x square x then constant term. Make sure it's arranged in sequence. If I want to trap you, I rearrange them. Then you anyhow ABC, right? So remember, rearrange them in descending order, then you know you will get the correct value. So this is equals to 0. You can solve them easily. So take a square root, you will get plus minus 1. So your non-zero values of P will be 1 and negative 1. That's all. So this chapter is about keywords. They tell you that you know what is the discriminant. Or they ask you to show. Intersects the x-axis. What does that mean? Yeah, so how many real roots do you think they have? Can it be 1? Intersect at 1 point, intersect at 2 points? Can or not? Can, So they never say clearly. It means can be 1 point, can be 2 points. Oops. So when they say intersects the x-axis, it means discriminant can be greater or equals to 0, a combined situation. So when you do that, now they want you to explain means don't assume the given. They want you to prove, they want you to show. So explain is the same as show, explain is the same as proof. So you go and find discriminant first. So even if they use algebra for your A, B and C, don't be scared. You are A math student. just use the A, the B, and the C. So B square minus 4AC. This is your C. This is your B. This is your A. No number there means 1. So you go and simplify. Okay, and then you end up having this, which if you factorize it, you will get P plus 1 squared. How do I show this? How do I show that discriminant is greater or equals to 0? How do I show that this is always greater or equals to 0? Remember, we complete the square, then we always prove something. Anything bracket square is always greater or equals to 0, right? So you use the most powerful thing that you know for all real values of P. This one is P, you use P, you don't write X. Where is the X from? So use the variable that is there. Then you say P plus 1 square is greater or equals to 0. Therefore, D must be greater or equals to 0, shown. Okay, you can have a concluding statement saying that the graph, hence the graph intersects the x-axis. Okay, so everything that you have learned earlier on is shown here. So whenever they ask you to show, there must be this bracket square greater or equals to 0 somewhere, because this is proving. So this is super important. Don't forget it. Keep it at the back of your mind. You always need to use it. Okay, I only have 2 minutes. Can I just run through the keywords? So I know today you have CCA orientation, no time to do homework. So I'm not going to give homework, but I just let you think about it. Why you all give the shock face like I'm very evil like that? Okay, this one. Intersects x-axis means what? What? I still got 1 minute. Ask me to stop. Okay, fine. Tomorrow. When you see the word explain, means you need to show. Means you need to prove. Means you cannot use the result to prove it. You have to prove the result. So when they say prove that your graph intersect x-axis at 2 points, this is the keyword here. Okay, it means they want you to show that discriminant is greater than 0. You want to show. So you cannot write this out at the start. So this is very, very important. Okay, so what I need to do is, first of all, write discriminant. We know discriminant is b squared minus 4ac. So my b is negative 2. My a is just 1 over here. And then my c is this whole chunk that doesn't have any x attached to it. So c is 2 minus p. So when you go and calculate and simplify, you will end up having this as the expression. Okay, but my purpose here is to show that I have discriminant being positive. And there is no square term here, so I cannot use the powerful bracket square to show it. But there must be something that the question gave you that will help you show. So you look carefully at the question. They say P is greater than 1. So you must use it somewhere. So you can write, given that P is greater than 1, 4P would be greater than 4. Okay, I want to make use of this to link it to my D. So I'm still short of a minus 4. So if I subtract 4 on both sides, then this becomes 0. So can you see that this thing here is my D? So I've proven that discriminant is greater than 0. So the concluding statement, since D is greater than 0, the graph intersects x-axis at 2 points. So you must look out for what the question want. If they ask you to prove, don't write discriminant greater than 0 at the start. Once you write that, I cannot award you marks for that. Okay, you have to prove that it is greater than 0. So this is the important thing. Okay, Shu Huai, beside you usually got somebody there. Who? Amishi, she's absent. Okay. So today what? Skylar and Amishi. Okay, next one. I want to show. So again, show. Okay, anytime you forget, right, you go to the summary I gave you yesterday. Okay, this one, right? You look at the 4 boxes at the bottom, which is the one that say entirely above the x-axis. This leftmost box here, right? And when this case happens, there's 2 criteria. So wait, let me write. This one we need to have 2. One for part A, one set of keyword for part B. Okay, you add in yourself. Find a space somewhere. Okay, so this one when it's entirely above x-axis. Yesterday we all agree that for a graph to lie completely above, it must be a smiling curve. If not, it cannot lie entirely above. So when you have a smiley curve that lies entirely above, there's no real roots, no intersection. So discriminant must be less than 0. This is first criteria. Second, it must be a minimum curve. So when you see this statement, this keyword entirely above the x-axis, or when you see always positive, this is the thing that you're supposed to show. Okay, next one. Negative is always negative. So when a curve is always negative, we are saying that it lies completely below the x-axis. So when this happens, it must have no real roots and it must be a maximum curve. If not, it cannot be always negative. This means always negative, always lower than 0. This is the 0 line. Okay, so 2 sets of keyword, one for part A, one for part B. So the idea is to prove it. So part A, if I want to prove that discriminant is greater than 0, less than 0, I need to first find discriminant. So B square, this is my B, minus 4, A is 1, C is this entire chunk here. Okay, so whatever happens, just embrace first, expand, simplify, and see what you get. So although it looks scary at the start, but sometimes it's as simple as whatever is simple to you. So you see the 4k square cancels out, it is exactly negative. So we have proven that discriminant is negative, and then coefficient is positive, which is a minimum curve. So if you have shown me that D is less than 0 and it is a minimum curve because A is positive, then you can conclude since D is negative and A is positive, therefore graph lies entirely above x-axis. Yes. Where is the A? This one is for part B. I wrote it here because I don't have, I think we left it out. I cannot use this for both questions. So I created another set for part B. Yeah, this one, A greater than 0 and D less than 0. So I've proven D less than 0, I've proven A greater than 0. Because A is here. So when A is 1, it is positive, so proven. Okay, so you need to have these 2 sets of criterion satisfied, then you can tell me you have shown it. Okay, that's part A. Bigger, is it?
So why a maximum curve cannot be above the x?
Okay, because maximum curve looks like this, right? So if I want it to be above, meaning it's something like this. But we all know that a maximum curve, the end point, right, they will always extend infinitely. So if I extend it long enough, it will intersect. It's just that some of you, when you draw, you stop somewhere, right? But actually a parabola extends to infinity. So if you just put the arms down, right, it will cut. A maximum curve can never be lying above the x-axis. Unless it's below it, then it will not cut. Because if it extends infinitely, it will still not hit the head, right? So this is not possible. So must be a minimum curve. So that's why this criteria is important, huh? Okay, it takes a while for you to remember the 4 scenarios. Okay, but now you can refer. After a while, you should be okay. Okay, look at part B. Now I want to show these two. So first thing first, I also start from my discriminant. D is B square minus 4A C, the whole chunk. Okay, so just go and expand normally. This is 16k square. Okay, I expand these two first. So this is a plus 8. Then I still got this one. Okay, if you can skip steps, go ahead. Okay, then I expand some more. So again, the k square cancels out. It is minus 8, which is negative. Okay, the next thing I need to prove is my coefficient of x squared, which is A. A in this case is negative 2, which is negative. So when it's negative, you are upset, you frown, right? That's why it's a maximum curve. So you have a maximum curve that doesn't cut the x-axis. Therefore, it is always negative. Since D is less than 0 and A is less than 0, therefore, your graph is negative. Okay, always need to have a concluding statement. Okay, but the idea is these two must be there. So this subtopic will have proving somewhere. Ask you to show, explain, prove. Okay, but you always bring in the discriminant. Okay, can you try it on your own? Same concept, lies completely below the x-axis. Completely below must be a maximum curve. D must be less than 0. So can you try to prove that? This is the A, right? The B is here. Yeah. Okay, wait, I expand here. Okay, check your expansion. Okay, check your expansion carefully. Your C is a negative k square plus 1. Okay, this one is exactly the same as the question before that, just that they are testing your algebraic expansion skills. So must be careful. So two things, maximum curve and doesn't cut the x-axis. That's why it's completely below the x-axis. So you need to show these two things. Okay, B, you can do it two ways. Either you prove it by completing the square way, show that the whole thing is always positive, or you also use this method. So let's do that also. Discriminant is B square minus 4AC. So what I do is I will simplify this one first. But if you can see it straight away, don't need to do step by step. So discriminant is less than 0. If you look at the A, is 1/4, which is positive. So since you have a minimum curve that does not cut the x-axis, it must lie completely above, which means it's always positive. Always positive means it's always greater than 0. That's why the whole graph is above the 0 line. So since D is less than 0 and A is greater than 0, therefore graph is always positive. Okay, those who have bought the 10-year series, if you go to your 10-year series and you look at this chapter on equations and inequality, you will see examples like that you can practice. Yes. Buy both. Yes. If A is greater than 0, it's a minimum curve. Okay, so you buy the O level one, don't mix up. You go to the bookshop, look for O level topical. Don't buy yearly. Yearly is next year. So O level topical, E math and A math. If I'm not wrong, this is 6, this is 8. Okay, it will be cheaper than what is selling outside. And then if you drag it until end of term 1, you go outside and buy, it's either out of stock or it's more expensive. Okay, so we bring it into the bookshop easy for you to buy. You need to buy soon so that you can start revision using it. Okay, so remember, I can only prove that the graph is always positive if it is minimum curve, okay, and it doesn't cut the x-axis. So let me just sum up one last time. Yesterday's chart, there's 4 scenarios. Okay, some of you still copying. Okay, 4 scenarios. If discriminant is equal to 0, it just means that whether it's a minimum curve or maximum curve, you only have 2 equal and repeated roots. This is the simplest clear-cut case. Only one intersection. Okay? And then second case is where you have discriminant greater than 0. You have 2 distinct real roots. It means whether it's a minimum curve or maximum curve, it will cut the x-axis at 2 points. So this one also clear cut. Case number 2. Case number 3 is a bit special. It's when discriminant is less than 0. Okay, remember yesterday our quadratic formula? Your d is in the square root. The d that we are talking about is in the square root. So yesterday we spoke that if d is equal to 0, the whole square root disappear. You only have one solution, which is true, right? Because when you sub in d as 0 here, then the square root disappear. Your solution is only minus b over 2a. 1 only. Plus 0 minus 0. Same thing. So we call it 2 equal and repeated root. So this one no issue. Okay, when the value of d inside is positive, when you take square root, there is a value there. So you add a positive value, you add a negative value, you have 2 different answers. So that's why 2 distinct real roots. But the different part is where you have discriminant less than 0, your square root of a negative number returns with a math error. No solution that are real. Okay? So you cannot find any solutions means your curve either lies above it or below it. Because it doesn't cut the x-axis. That's why you have no real roots. So when it is this case, we section it out. There are a few criteria. Either then it has no real roots, it must be a minimum curve. So 2 criteria here. So this is case A. 3A, 3B, total 4 cases. And then sometimes they describe it as a always positive graph. Sometimes they describe it as a curve lies entirely above x-axis. Okay, so this is just another way of saying this case. Another scenario is where it is a maximum curve. Okay, this gives a minimum curve. This gives a maximum curve. So when you have that 2 criteria satisfied, then you can say your curve is always negative. Always less than 0. Always positive is always positive. Okay, or you can say the curve lies entirely below. So there are different descriptors for it, but it all mean the same thing. So I want you to see that actually there's a total of 4 cases in 1.2. Okay, that's it. Okay, you look at the next page. What do you think that is? Practice makes progress, right? Not perfect, we go for progression. Okay, so I give you some chance. little bit of chance. So I bring in probability. Okay? We always give chance. So I'm going to bring in the wheel of chance for you. So that it's not like I say must do all, everybody must do all, right? I give you chance. Okay? So on the spinner wheel, there is even questions to do, odd questions to do all or do nothing. Okay? Right, I'm so kind, right? Everything is 25%, right? So, and I'm not going to press the button because if not later you say I rigged the game, right? So any volunteers that thinks you are lucky, sure? So anything is Harshit, right? Anything is Harshit. One chance only. One chance only. I hope it's all. Okay?
None.
That's barbaric.
Okay, even. Okay, it's from your friend. Okay, I didn't decide. Your friend decide your fate. Okay, so now you all should start making your own notes already. AMAP 1.1, what's the key thing? What was the key thing for 1.1? Oh, just completing the square, how to read the turning point, how to show for all real values, what are all the possible values, right? Then 1.2 is this 4 case. So start making your revision notes so that every time you revise, you know where to look for it. Okay, don't chuck it everywhere. You got to be organized because you are a double math student. Oh, okay, 1.1, right? Okay, can. 1.1. It's 1.1. Yes. Okay, can. 1.1, Ravan. Who else owe me? Nobody. Christy, do you give me the e-math assignment? Haven't, right? Raven, give me 1.4. Okay, 100%. Very good. Done? Okay, let's move on to 1.3. Problem sum kind of questions. How can I find this height? My mission is to solve for h, right? So what values of x must I sub in? At this point, what do you think my x is? 0. I haven't even begin, right? My distance from the slingshot is nothing. So I will sub in x as 0. So you'll just get 1. So this is a height of 1 meter above the ground when you launch the ball from the slingshot. Okay, next one. They say, can you find the greatest height of the ball after it is launched from the slingshot? That means I want this point. What is the greatest height of the ball? What do you think I can do? You have learned the concept, but how to apply it here? How to find the greatest height? What do you think you should do? Greatest height means what? The turning point. So if I'm given a quadratic, I want to find the turning point. What should I do? You complete the square. So you either go and complete the square, give me the maximum y value, or you can go and find the line of symmetry value, sub in and find the y. So you have 2 ways. So you see with your comfort level. So those of you doing by completing the square, you take out the coefficient. Right? And then you add in your 0 pair. So it's always from this number here. You halve that number. So whatever that you have been learning previously, it is to prepare you for this part. Okay, so expand in. Expand in. So this is your completed square form. Okay, you can do it in one step. So you don't have to do it in so many steps, but I'm just being explicit. Yes. So zoom in, can. Okay, so my maximum height, it is just the y coordinate here, which is 9 meters. Okay. Okay, I just emphasize, I mark some of your work for PMP 1.1. Remember, turning point is a coordinate, must have bracket. Some of you just write the two x and y and then with a comma, no bracket. Then that's wrong, huh? Okay, what's the other way you can do this? Go and find line of symmetry by using the formula. This is the line of symmetry formula. So you go and plug in your B value, which is 8. Plug in your A value, which is -2. So you will get line of symmetry being 2. Then you sub in your line of symmetry into the equation. So this is another way you can find the answer. Need not be completing the square. 16 and 8, so 9. Okay, same thing. So this is alternative. If you don't like completing the square, like really hate it, then this is the alternative. Okay, this is the exciting part. Okay, I let you copy first. My lesson ends at 10:30. 10:45. Hoping for. Where is here? For 10:45. Okay, I have 23 minutes. Done? I copy the diagram here, then you all can continue to. Okay, so what I have gotten is that this is at 9 meters, or rather the coordinate of this is 2, 9. So at this point here, x is 2. Okay, and then the height here is 9 meter. Okay, something like this. Okay, but now the question say, if I have a toy that is 3 meters horizontally from the slingshot and 7 meters above the ground, meaning it is maybe somewhere here 3 meters from the slingshot and then 7 meters above the ground. So my toy is here. Okay, let's say this is the toy, right, at 7 meters tall. So my toy is here at this point, or it could even be here. Okay, I'm not sure, I'm just drawing. Okay, they ask you, will my ball hit the toy? So I need to check where my ball will be and whether it will hit the toy or not. So what do you think I should sub in? How can I find the height of the ball at the point? So I go and sub in x equals to 3. I will know where my ball is. What should it be? Is it 7? Is it 7 meter? 9 minus 18 minus 24. Correct? So it's exactly at 7. So meaning, actually the toy, just nice, so perfect, is at where the ball is. So the ball will hit the toy. So you will comment that since the ball is at 7 meters above the ground, it will hit the toy directly. Okay, so so it's simple substitution, but you must understand what the question is asking. Then you know what to substitute, then you know what to comment about. Okay, but so far O level have yet to test this kind of question. Don't know why. I always like it. But they have yet to test. I wonder if you are the chosen one. Can done copying? Yes, okay, now this is the bridge, and they say it follows the motion of a parabola, and the whole arch is 120 meters wide. The highest point is 50 meters above the ground. And then they say, can you give me the quadratic equation to represent the arch? So you remember when we had the factorized form, these two coordinates are our x-intercept. When we sub y as 0, remember that? So actually, if I do reverse engineering, this is one of my x-intercept at 0. This is my other x-intercept at x equals to 120. So if I reverse engineer, I will see that one of my factor here is x minus 0. The other factor here is x minus 120. So that when I equate to 0, I get 0 and 120. Correct? So these two, I already know what they are. But the problem now is, there is a A here that I don't know what it is. So to solve it, I need to sub in one coordinate. Okay, I need to sub in one coordinate. So you can pick a point from the graph, okay, that is not your 2x intercept. So what is the one point that you know that they give you other than x-intercept? Here. Do you know the coordinate of this point? What is it? 120? 60, because it's at the midpoint, right? And then the highest point is at 50. Because when you half it, this is at the 60 point. So you can sub in this coordinate to find what is your A. So y is 50, x is 60, so you will get A to be minus 1 over 72. Okay, you double check. Okay, so for your challenge, if you go and take a photo, you know the width between the 2 points. You know the midpoint, you know the tallest height. You can find the equation in factorized form. Okay, so this is how you can get the equation of the parabola you see in real life. So the equation is represented by this. X minus 0, no need to write the minus 0. Just write like this. So this is your equation, your quadratic equation for this bridge. Okay, so architects, when they measure how long the bridge is, how much the arch should look like, they use this. They cannot just create something from nothing. Okay, there must be calculations done in order for the architect to plan how they do their design. It's on paper, or rather there's some design apps that they use to do it. CAD. I think you will use that for D&T. Do you all take D&T? No, okay, sorry. Okay, but you will learn it if you are going into architecture or engineering. Okay, next one. A point on the arch is 10 meters horizontally from O. So meaning somewhere here, 10 meters away, And then they ask you, what is the height of the arch at this point? So what are they asking you to do? Sub x as 10. So go and find your y. So it is just understanding what they are trying to ask you to do. There's nothing scary about it. Okay, part 3, they say, I have another point on the arch that is 20 meters vertically above the surface. So let's say it's here. I don't know where, but this is 20 meters. Okay? In fact, you know that there is another, because it's symmetrical, right? There is another point here that also has a height of 20 meters above the ground. Then they ask you, what is the width of this arch? So question is asking you how wide the arch is when it is at the point where it's 20 meters above the ground. So how can you find that 2 points first? Yeah, here. Assuming that this one is like flat on it. Although there's a little platform here lah. Let's assume that this is negligible height. Okay, so how can I find that 2 points of x? This one, there's one x here, right? There's another one x here. How can I find that? Sub what? Yes, so you sub y as 20. And then you try to solve it. Okay, this one, I see some mistake in your assignment. Some of you, when it's this value here, you bring over become plus. That's not right. It is multiplied here. When you bring over, is division. So this one, you all need to be very, very careful. So when you bring over, this is a division. Okay, if you bring over become plus, it's worrying. You all have to correct that mistake. It's a conceptual mistake. Okay, then you end off with a quadratic. Okay, you can use your whatever method to solve. So if you use your quadratic equation, which can solve anything, you will have 2 solutions. Okay, what should it be? One 106.4748. Let's have more, since it's not the actual one. 13.5242. Okay, so you have these 2 values, which means on your diagram, this first point here is 13.5242. This second point here is 106.475. So what is the width? You just take the difference between these 2. So the width of the arch is the difference between these 2 x points. So 3SF 93.0. Okay, if you give me anything more than 3, you are also marked correct. Because you are more accurate than 3. Just cannot give me anything less than 3. Okay, so I just repeat one more time. If we chop off this arch, this is the point where it's 20 meters above the ground. This point X is at 13.5242. This point X is at 106.475. So we are finding the width. okay, of the arch. Okay, those self-practices you can try at home. The answers are there. Last one. We really can finish the chapter. Wonderful. It's fine. You haven't even experienced what is speed. I haven't really bullet train yet. Statistics for Sec 4. For Sec 4, finish already. Or when y'all were Sec 2. Okay, it happens sometimes. So y'all never come to school, right? Then y'all come back, how one chapter gone, then that's it. So be in school regularly, okay, people? Because the moment you miss school, you miss a lot. Okay, one last question. Let's move. Tunnel. Do we have tunnel in Singapore? We have, right? Okay, you go and look at the tunnel and calculate the... Okay, this one. Underpass. Also the shape of a parabola. And then X is the horizontal distance from one end of the arch to the other. Y is the height. And then the maximum height is 5 meters. So they say, can you give me the equation in completed square form? So completed square form, you need the turning point. So what is the turning point here? 3, 5. So if we feed it back to the formula, right, you know that it is something like this. But the A is unknown to me. So I need to find one point to sub in except my turning point. So you can either choose your x-intercept here, which is 0, 0. You cannot see, green better? Not really. The other point here would be your 6, 0. So choose either one and sub in. Choose the 0, 0 because it's easy. So sub one of the point on the curve inside. Okay, then you will get 9A. So your A is minus 5 over 9. So which tells us that the equation in completed square form looks like this. Okay, so any underpass that you see in Singapore, you can come up with the equation. Okay, you can just stand there and look and measure with your phone. Okay, and then you can calculate the equation. Okay, so now they say, can you find the height of the arch when the width is 4 meters? So this is the slightly thinking question that I need you to visualize. I want the width now to be 4 meters. Width, so meaning if this is my arch, I want this width to be 4 meters. What do you think the 2x values are? So the whole line, the whole line here, the whole curve is 6 meters, right? The middle section here is 4 and they are symmetrical. So what is this part here? And this part here? 1, right? Because 6 minus 4 is a difference of 2 and you need to share between the two gaps. So this must be 1 unit each. So the x value here must be 1. And then the x value here must be 5. So that there is a 1 meter gap. So that the middle has 4 meters width. Okay, so this one, the thinking is on the diagram, you must be able to visualize where you are. So now you can find the height. You can choose either one. You can sub x as 1 or x as 5 they will give you the same height. So you choose which one. I will choose 1 because the number is small, but if you would like challenge, just sub 5. Anyway, calculator will do the job for you. Okay, so what does it give you? My answer here says this. So I'm at 279 meters above the ground. Okay? So this is part 2. The last one is they want you to make the decision like the toy, whether my ball will hit the toy. Now I'm going to drive a truck through. Okay? My truck is 4 meters wide. A very wide truck. Okay? But the height of the truck is only 2.5 meters. Can it go through the underpass without hitting the corners? So width is the same, right? So width of my truck. Here. This is my truck. For authenticity. Okay, so 4 meters width, but the height is 2.5. What is this? This is 2.7. I mean, it's a very like white one. Those kind that, I don't know, you see in Disney. Okay? So, do you think the truck will go in without hitting the top of the wall? Can, right? It's clearly under 2.7. So, it can just float inside the underpass and go through neatly. So, you will tell me since the height of the truck is 2.5 meters, which is less than of the arch. Okay? Therefore, it can navigate through the underpass. Monday I don't see you. I see you Tuesday 1 period, 3 period. Okay, can. Nice plan. So your homework is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Quite fairly distributed. So this is PMP 1.2. Okay, this weekend homework do on foolscap paper. Yes, still copying, is it?